Good morning, it's Mrs. Looper. We're back with an exciting Sunday school lesson this morning. And last week we talked about Moses, and we talked about how Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh in Egypt and did as God asked and told Pharaoh to let his people go, the Israelite people, correct? Now, Pharaoh said no. And then we talked a little bit about how obstacles and sometimes opposition come before we can see the victory through Jesus. All right, so this week we're going to continue that story. How does God work on the behalf of the Israelite people? And we're going to talk about that. We're talking about the 10 plagues of Egypt. Now, do you know what a plague is? Well, today we're going to talk about it. So in Exodus chapter 6, I'm going to read the first 2 verses. Then the Lord said unto Moses, Now shalt thou see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. And God spake unto Moses and said unto him, I am the Lord. Now, we're going to go on and talk about the story. When Pharaoh refused to let the children of Israel go, God began to smite Egypt with plagues. And God allowed Pharaoh to harden his heart many times because God wanted to show the wonders of what he could do. Now, we're going to talk about some of those plagues. These are bad things that happened to the Egyptians, okay? Now, Pharaoh continued to harden his heart and refused to let the Israelites go. So God sent some bad things their way. Now, the first one is disgusting. God had Moses put his rod in the water, and the water turned to blood. We're talking dead fish. This is drinking water, bathing water, and it's blood. Ew, that's gross. If you have a queasy tummy, I bet it's upset right now. Okay, the next thing God sent was frogs. This one I find a little funny because I think frogs can be kind of funny when you watch them and they croak so loud and they jump and they're little sticky, slimy amphibians. But imagine waking up in Egypt one morning and they're on your bed, they're in your oven, they're in your bowls. Ew, that's gross, all right? That wouldn't be fun anymore. It'd be just like, ah, all right? So after the frogs go away, then the next thing was lice. Now, I personally haven't had lice, but I've known people that had lice, and they said it's itchy, and you itch, and it's just awful and annoying. So that was the next plague. So here's the next thing. Pharaoh again, nope, not letting the people go, hardens his heart. Okay, lice goes away. The next thing, flies. Now, I tell you what, something about Brother Looper is he cannot go to sleep if there is a fly in the bedroom. He'll look around that thing, and Brother Looper's chasing it with like a piece of newspaper or something. All right, flies are annoying. And I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be having any more than that. We've had flies in our house, fruit flies and stuff, and we put traps up to get them. Okay, nobody likes flies. After this was the murrain of cattle. Now in Egypt, you have to understand that cattle were looked on and worshipped. So to see their cattle be very sick and unhealthy, that's a pretty bad plague for people who really loved them. Okay? Now also next was boils. So here's Moses and Aaron again coming. Let the people go, and Pharaoh, no. So the next plague was boils. Boils are like a sore that develops right under the skin here. Oh, it's horrible. Personally haven't had one. Known someone who did, and they said it was awful. And I guess sometimes when you spend too much time in the heat, you can get them. So they had boils. Then when those went away, again, Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh. Let God's people go. Let them go. Let the Israelites go. And again, Pharaoh hardened his heart. No. So the next thing that came was hail. So here's all these chances that Pharaoh's getting to let these people go. And things that are bad just keep happening. All right, sounds like 2020 to me. We've had a lot of things that just seem horrible this year, right? But we're going to get through it. Now, let's move on. So he sent hail. Now, if you know and you live in Lincoln, Nebraska, we had hail recently, and people had cars damaged and things like that. And if you were out in it, it could be very dangerous, right? These big chunks of ice. Next, again, Moses and Aaron go to Pharaoh, let God's people go. Let the people go. No. And the next thing was locusts. Ugh. Locusts are, have you ever seen kind of like a grasshopper? They're very, to me, they seem kind of similar, but they'll come in and they will take over an entire crop of corn or something like that. So they'd come in, most likely ate most of their crops and things. So moving on, the locusts, God has them leave, gives Pharaoh another chance. Pharaoh says, no, I'm not letting the people go. So the next thing was darkness. Now, if you have ever been in a room with like curtains drawn and it's so dark, no night light, no light from outside, no light from a hallway, just so dark you can't even see your hand in front of your face, that is honestly probably one of my, like, that's so scary. That's so terrifying. But God allowed that to happen. The Egyptians are all like, oh my goodness, all right? Now, after that happened, God gave them another chance. Now, that was the 9th plague. Let's talk about the 10th plague, the final plague, which is very sad. But Pharaoh kept hardening his heart, so God was about to allow something to happen that would change his heart. The last plague, the 10th plague that happened, was that God had the Israelites know that they needed to put lamb's blood on all of the posts of their homes. So God protected the Israelites from this plague. This plague happened to the Egyptians, and it was the last plague, and it got Pharaoh's attention. This plague was that the firstborn in every home was going to die. So I want you to take a minute and kind of think, who's the firstborn in my home? Well, usually it's the oldest child in the home, and it often is your parents might be a firstborn. You'll have to ask if they have older siblings or younger siblings. And so those people who are the oldest child in their family would die. So in my home, my husband is actually the oldest child in his immediate home, and my daughter Karen would be, because she's a firstborn in our home. So the sad thing was that these people died. Now this got Pharaoh's attention because he lost his son, because his son was the firstborn. Now Pharaoh's son, his firstborn son, died. Now until this point, Pharaoh had been like, no, I'm not letting my slaves go. No, I'm not going to do it. And then this happens, and his firstborn son dies, and his heart changed. All of a sudden it was like, get out. He just wanted those slaves to leave. He was so done. He didn't like this one. This one really offended him. Okay? Now, obviously, having firstborn sons die, it was a sad thing, but you have to remember also that the Israelites were in slavery and in bondage and under horrible conditions for a very long time. So sometimes these drastic things had to happen. God allowed these things to happen to change Pharaoh's heart to free his people. So let's move on to the exciting part of the story. The Israelites are now free, and they're going and they're leaving, and we're going to continue that part of the story next week. So take with you this week that any man, saved or unsaved, good or bad, is subject to God. So you have to understand, God is in control, and God can take care of us. And just like the Israelite people, God will work on our behalf, all right? And another thing, God can do anything. If he can send a ton of frogs and a ton of flies, and he can do all those crazy things, then we know that he can do anything. He even freed the Israelite slaves, all right? So take that with you this week. Don't forget to keep praying and reading your Bible and see how God works. All right, let's see who wins a pizza this week. All right, let's see, who won a pizza this week, okay? Now, I have the names in here of all the kids that sent me what they did with or for their father figure for Father's Day. And I'm gonna go ahead and draw and see who won. Nathan, bud, you won again. You get a pizza this week, okay? So Nathan, I'll be bringing your pizza by, okay? Now this song might be new for some of you, so I thought I would sing it along with my daughter. It's called Whisper a Prayer. Now Karen, let's go ahead and sing it. Ready? Whisper a prayer in the morning, whisper a prayer at noon, whisper a prayer in the evening to keep your heart in tune. Now, if you want to learn that song, and you can go back and watch it a couple more times. I hope you guys had a great week, and this week is going to be the 4th of July weekend. So, for the 4th of July, your challenge this week is to draw me some fireworks. Now, this might be harder than you think, but I want you to have fun with it, especially you older kids. Make sure you get those into Brother Loop or I by Friday night, this Friday night, and we'll get your name into a drawing. And the prize for this week is a big bag of Takis, all right? So you guys send in your firework, firecracker, whatever, you get creative with it, drawings, and get your name in the drawing, all right? See you guys later. Bye!